Okay, good morning and welcome, and thank you for staying for this. I'm co-president, and I want to thank Libby, Karen, and Mary for their hard work in drawing together these proposed bylaw changes to Article 5 dealing with membership of the bylaws. Bylaws are an important part of our structure, and another important step is to keep them updated as our organization evolves. I want to stress that for all of you, that if you're not able to attend the congregational meeting where we will vote on the bylaws on December 4th, there will be information on how to assign a proxy going out with the warrant, which will be issued 10 days ahead of that. Without further ado, I'll pass the microphone over to Mary.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for being here. I guess I'll introduce this by stating again, although I think you received information in the email itself, why we decided to do this was prompted by the fact that we were reaching out, as the membership committee does, to members throughout the congregation that we just noticed we had not seen in a while. And we've done this from time to time. And when we do it, we get very few calls back or emails back. And it's concerning because we don't know if they're members or if they've just decided to take a break or what's going on with them. And we have no way of knowing. And this is especially hard or challenging when the board is trying to put together a budget, because without knowing what annual financial contributions will be coming in, it's hard for them to know what they have to work with. And it's also, it's really important that we know that. Because our staff needs to be salaried at an acceptable, if not fabulous, level, in my view. And also, it has a lot to do with what programs we can do, what kind of resources we have to grow this congregation, if that's what we choose to do. So that's why we took a dive into looking at what our bylaws actually say about membership, what it means to become a member, to sustain membership, and if someone chooses to leave the membership, what's the process for that? So we looked at all the different provisions in that article, and that's essentially it. So you all have a copy, I'm guessing, of the bylaw changes, and of course our suggestions are on the right. And this has gone through, we've had Leah, of course, take a look at it, and then the two co-presidents, and then the board. We tried to get some feedback from the RE group. It would have been fabulous to hear from them as well, because at least the first provision that we're looking at, or second, includes information about the age of membership. So we tried to move this through a whole lot of stakeholders, and this is sort of where we ended up. And now we're going, of course, to the most important stakeholders, which are the members. So that's where we are. Does anyone have any comments they want to share about it?
Well, okay, so
questions, definitely questions.
Been sitting here reading while you've been talking, which is what I do. So it says active members are 18 years or older and are expected to be active in the life of the community and make an annual pledge and financial contribution. And I'm curious about that financial contribution. I mean, I assume it could be $1 a year and you would still be a member. So then when you get down to member emeritus, why do you need that? You know, very few of us would not, I mean, I think, would be able to make a very small pledge if that's what it means.
Do you want to answer that?
Oh, well, you probably have a better answer
Okay.
than I do.
It's sort of an honorary status for those who really are, their incomes are reduced or their incomes are closely monitored by the rest of their family. Yeah, emeritus, yes. And by the way, wonderful Janice, the best editor ever, made some suggestions, grammatical suggestions. So at the third line from the bottom, contribution but are invited. Anyway, we will make all of those changes that Janice suggested. So it really is, it happens in congregations that, that people feel if they can't come, if they can't contribute, certainly at the level they could, that they feel like they've just lost their connection and maybe shouldn't bother staying a member.
More about the definition of active members than it was about
Oh,
emeritus. I'm sorry.
okay. Do you want to?
So Ann, whoa, hello. So you're asking about the addition of that financial contribution, is that correct? Yeah. So in conversations that we had as a group and in our conversations, with other people who this was discussed with, it seemed as though when we talk about what does membership mean and what are the responsibilities as well as the advantages of being a member, one of the things that came up a lot was the idea of commitment. And a financial commitment is part of that. At least that's what was our feeling, given that our congregation financially is sustained by the contributions of our members. But that being said, of course, we wouldn't want to exclude anybody who could not, in fact, make a financial contribution. And so I think the idea sort of was, let it be the understanding that a financial contribution is expected, and if that needs to be $1, that's fine. And then I think what Mary was saying about the emeritus, yeah, that's sort of more of an honorary thing. There are people who have contributed financially tremendously to this congregation who find themselves in a position where they can no longer do that. And, the idea would just be to just say, don't worry about that in those cases. Does that answer your question?
Hi, Reedy Anderson here. So it seems like two issues were conflated here. And one is the absolute necessity to be able to have the predictability of a budget in order to move forward. And I certainly appreciate that. I understand that and appreciate that. But to conflate it with active membership, it seems there are other ways that one could think about active membership. For example, in organizations like this where volunteer is so important, it would seem that another possibility for active membership is, what do you do here? What volunteer? What committees do you serve on? What activities are you involved in? That sort of thing. So I'm wondering if there's a way to think about active membership in a broader way, and that we don't end up with this emeritus status, which in this case feels a little, I don't know, it feels funny. And as for $1 membership a year, I think I would feel funny about that. But if I were active, and my idea of being active also is getting involved in significant ways. So I just encourage you to think about active membership a little bit differently.
I just want to clarify something. I have a unique lens here, and I just want to share it with all of you. I would say that I, as the admin, am the only person who can tell you what the status is of any person at any given time. I have so few points of reference to tell you that. And again, the ability to say how many members strong we are in terms of the dues we pay, or to where to address our pastoral care needs, or our circle of care needs, or X, Y, and Z, there need to be a few points to be able to answer the many, many appeals that I receive that say, who is our membership? So that question is something I have not been able to answer with confidence for the better part of my service here. It's getting better, but from an admin running an organization point of view, to have everyone be expected to fill out a pledge form that states we are indeed all volunteer supported here, and my pledge is $10 this year, that says I'm here, I'm part of this congregation, this is what I can afford. So this is not my support for these bylaws comes from a running an organization point of view that allows for one firm data point versus, hey, have you seen Joe? I haven't seen Joe. I think the last time I saw Joe was 2 years ago at Christmas time. Is that make him a member? I don't know. Huh. That's basically how it's gone thus far. And I just want to clarify, like, this is not a you're not in, you're out, that is really not ever the spirit of this. It's more a calling in fact, to say, it's a way of noticing, like, oh, I haven't seen you, we didn't see you pledge this year, like, just want to touch base with you. How's it going? Where are you finding belonging? That sort of thing. So anyway, that's all I want to say. I am sort of separate from all of you to a degree, but I did want to give you a little bit of an admin point of view, if that's helpful. And I took the mic from Naomi, so.
I hear your concern, Leah, but I also would like to take exception to the idea of requiring a financial contribution. For someone to say, I'm only going to give $1 a year or $10 a year, that's a hard thing to do. I think that's much harder than just not doing it. And I don't want to exclude someone for that on that basis. I hear your desire to have some kind of something, maybe require a form, fill in a form, this year I done thus. But I'm not comfortable asking for a financial contribution as being as being part of the criteria of being a member.
Other?
So I am not at all surprised to hear that. And I would like to suggest maybe, I agree, I think it's good to have like a sign up every year, kind of like, I'm still here. whether you can contribute financially or not. Maybe with the idea that we contribute financially or in kind, in some way, in service, in some way, or whatever. Just showing some level of commitment, whether it's financial or otherwise. I think that would be a great idea. I have a thought too on the first page. Are we ready to move to that? Yeah. I think I made this comment before when we talked in the board, and maybe it's been addressed or maybe it hasn't. I'm slightly concerned, slightly concerned about the last paragraph on page 1 that says the ultimate authority for all legal matters. I agree completely that the ultimate authority for all legal matters is us, is the membership. But I still feel like there needs to be some sentence here that says that the day-to-day operation of the organization is, the membership agrees that they are empowering the Board of Trustees to conduct the day-to-day operations of the society. Otherwise, I really don't want us to I don't want our bylaws to suggest that everything that we do legally has to run through the entire membership in a congregational meeting. That could just be disastrous.
Yeah. Other?
On the other change, which is the change of age, yeah, I wore my hearing aids and I have difficulty with many of the speakers. The other question was changing the age. Having been in a congregation for many decades where we had a similar bylaw change, but it was to remove all age criteria. And I'm wondering where this comes from. I know where ours came from was from young people who said, you know, I'm whatever the age was. I'm 15 and a half. I have to wait till I'm 16? That's ridiculous. And indeed, it was Lori, you won't be surprised to know, as a teenager who said, shouldn't be an age requirement, there should be a desire requirement. I don't, yeah.
So that's the one where we did reach out to so when we were going through it, you know, I'm a developmental psychologist. Mary has a fair amount of experience working with kids. And it was in our feeling, you know, not being religious professionals or religious education, although I guess Mary sort of is. Okay, Mary is. Anyway, you know, it was sort of our feeling and based on the experience of Ari in this congregation that, you know, typically, what's that? Well, yeah, so indeed. So we talked about it, and we were sort of thinking 16 made a lot of sense because in our experience, the 13 and 14 and 15-year-olds, you know, 15 less, so were coming or not coming because their parents wanted them to. And that it was a little older than 13, typically, when they were making those decisions for themselves. We did reach out to the RE committee, and we did reach out to our brand new DRE, who obviously had a lot of other things, you know, going on at the beginning of this, you know, worship season. So we didn't hear much back. We heard there was a tiny amount of discussion just from a couple of members of the RE committee that sort of said, you know, yeah, we need to talk about this. But then we never heard back. This, quite frankly, is not something that we feel like is, it's not something I feel that strongly about. I don't think it's something, you know, Mary feels strongly about. If people wanted to have the age stay exactly how it is, I mean, that's fine. You know. I'm just concerned about a 15-year-old Lori who wanted to. Right. Oh, I can't be a member because I'm not. So, you know, so the other thing is, you know, having had kids who went through this congregation, my, you know, 14 and 15-year-olds never felt that they weren't members. I mean, they were the youth of this congregation. And that I know, and they never felt, they were super active, and they never felt the need to be something different from just youth of the congregation. That's simply my experience. And I'm sure that other people, you know, other kids may have different experiences. I also know that after 16, there were some kids who would then go and become a member and be on the board of trustees. We had a youth member, you know, for several years. And then they were 16 or over and, you know, made that commitment and made that choice for themselves. But, you know, again, I hear you, and I don't feel like I know enough about our current group of kids to make a call on that.
I think that there is an important distinction between, hello, I'm Emma. I don't think I know all of you. I think there's an important distinction for someone under 18 who would like to be a member I think there's a difference in expectation for that person. There shouldn't be a financial component. But if an 8-year-old wants to be a member and wants to engage in these sorts of conversations and wants to vote or contribute or volunteer in a way that's appropriate for that 8-year-old, I think that makes sense. I don't think we should exclude someone based on their age from membership. I think that the expectations for a child would be different. But I also think that having an opportunity for a youth to become a member would encourage that person to remain a member or become a member somewhere else. I was never formally invited to become a member of the congregations I was a part of as a youth. And so I wasn't a member of any congregation until I signed the book here, which actually meant that because I hadn't formally been a member, I was unable to vote at the congregational meeting because I hadn't been a member for 60 days. So I was actually excluded from benefits of membership, contributing to the vote, because I hadn't been a member of a UU congregation for 60 days. Had I been a member of another congregation previously, which I was very active in other congregations, and then signed the book when I did, and then attended the congregational meeting, I would have been able to vote. So I think we have an opportunity to extend an invitation to our youth to participate in our congregation and allow them to extend that invitation from their youth into their young adulthood, whether they maintain their membership here or translate it to a different congregation. I think that might be a way to keep young people who are so engaged, continually engaged wherever they go outside these doors.
I think that membership, I'd be really curious what the UUA says about membership by age. I don't know. It seems like they must make some kind of, it must have some kind of category for this, because the membership is a way they keep track of the size of the congregation, which has to do with how they sort of, collect dues from congregations. So I'd be curious what they do, what they say. I also want to say that as I've been, probably some of involved in Canvas, raising funds, building budgets for this congregation for many years. And so I really do appreciate the idea of trying to do whatever we can to enhance the idea that we're all responsible for this congregation financially. But I do agree that, the way the wording of this hit me was, you have to kind of come and declare that you're not giving, or else you're considered not a member. And I think that is going to feel, that's going to feel to some people kind of, intimidating, if not humiliating. And I would think some different language there could be good. I guess I would just say that I definitely support anything, including bylaw changes that really encourage financial contributions, to the point where I'm even wary of equating it with in-kind work, because I think that we can have all the in-kind work in the world, and we need even more of it, but it doesn't pay the bill. So we need financial contributions. So I would definitely support things to encourage and, normalize giving, but I'm not sure the language here. I think you're going to run into opposition to that language. I hope, is that what you didn't hear?
Thank you.
I just also want to say that making a financial contribution, I see as sort of doing your part to sustain this wonderful congregation. And we're not talking about thousands of dollars. We're talking about what every single person can afford. But I also think, Weenie, what you brought up about, or I think you did, on in-kind contribution of time, what makes a community, what makes us feel that we belong to one another, is when we work together side by side on things of value, of importance. And we do that when we join committees or task forces or something. It's what makes us know each other more deeply when we struggle together on things and bump up against each other because we all have different beliefs. And so my sense is that we want to both encourage every year more participation. I'm glad our Leadership Development Committee is really thriving right now to encourage more leadership from our members. But, you know, communities, religious communities such as this are fragile things. They aren't something that you can kind of take for granted in terms of, oh yeah, there'll be others who will be there to do it or take leadership or make a financial contribution. You know, that's just not me or whatever. And certainly that's not what you were saying, but I think that when a community, a religious community, takes itself really seriously and says what we have to offer is so important to the world, I think it makes a difference when you say, it's an expectation that we have that you will make a financial contribution. And we're not saying at a certain level. A lot of churches will say, UU churches say 5% of your disposable income. We're just saying make a financial contribution. And we're not requiring activity. But I just can't imagine that someone would want to be a member and not have some sort of contribution to make because they love this place. Not financially, I'm talking about activity-wise.
And I agree with everything you've said. So I'm not running counter to that. But I find it, and I'm not talking about in kind. Oh, I work 10 hours and that's equal to whatever. That's distasteful. But what I am saying is, what makes me so uncomfortable is to belong to a community and have an expectation of a financial contribution. And it seems that there must be ways to, one, solve this very practical problem of how do we make a budget for next FY 23 or 24 when we don't even know until July 1, is that the fiscal year, how much money we're getting. There seems to be some way that we can predict that, whether it's in January asking people what their expected contribution is.
If this were a formal business meeting, I would like to make an amendment. Clearly it's not, but I would like to amend it anyway, to just read, active members are expected to contribute to the community, period.
Thank you for your questions and for attending today. And I want to again thank Mary, Libby, and Karen for their hard work. Since the Ministry of Welcome and Membership has been formed about 1.5 years ago, they've been meeting weekly. So thank you for all of these efforts.